topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good afternoon, Illinois. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show where we bring you the finest experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Our expert today, this show is so good, it's one of the few shows that we actually run the entire 50 minutes, but we also repeat it each month. And we will be promoting when the next repeat date is. Or you can always go back to iHeart in their library under Ask the Experts, Illinois, either bankruptcy or tax relief. Let me welcome you, our great expert, attorney Kevin Benjamin. Good afternoon, Kevin.
Good afternoon. How are you doing?
Are you at home today?
No. The office.
That's your office. I've never seen that picture before of your office.
Well, there's different offices. I never used it before.
So listen, Kevin, we're going to first start off. We're going to be talking. Wow, we're talking. The phone calls are already coming in already. We're going to be talking about bankruptcy first. We split Kevin's show up because he does both bankruptcy, debt management, and tax relief. So the second half of the show will be tax relief, and Kevin covers all of Illinois. But when it comes to tax relief, if you're listening for some reason from another state, you can actually also call Kevin. Kevin, start off with tell people about your practice.
Okay, I'm Kevin Benjamin, Benjamin Legal Services, and basically we are a consumer and business oriented law firm helping people with debt relief, debt restructuring, bankruptcy, do litigation, IRS controversy, offering compromises, settlement agreements, appeals, stuff like that, tax resolution, and basically helping people with debt and managing things and stuff like that. Been doing it a long time. We stop foreclosures for people, keep them in the houses, and fight the banks sometimes, but. It's mostly people, but we do businesses as well. And that's what we do.
Kevin, are things any different now than they were, say, 5 or 10 years ago? Are you seeing more people filing for bankruptcy or more people?
Well, about 5 or 10 years ago. I mean, during COVID, it was nothing. For like 3 years, it was like shut down. They had the COVID thing and they froze all lawsuits and garnishments and foreclosures, and they were getting forbearances, and everybody was getting money even more than they were making in the job. So nobody needed us for a while. It was about sometime last year it started going again, and now it's back to where we're at. And it's because now people with those government loans, SBA, EIDL, PPP, they're all defaulting on those, and the mortgages, all the forbearances from the COVID area, those are over. Sometimes the lender will put it on the back end, but oftentimes they're not, because the forbearance just means it's forbeared until this day, then you got to pay the whole thing. So there's a lot of people with problems. The IRS is coming after people pretty hard starting last year and continuing it this year. And they have more money in their budget. They hired more people, more enforcement, levies, liens, garnishments, so it's back.
We got our first text from DuPage. They want to know what kind of eligibility requirements are there for bankruptcy?
Okay, so there's different kinds of bankruptcy. Like there's the Chapter 9s for governments. Most people don't. I'm calling for that. Chapter 12 is for farmers. Chapter 15 is like cross-border, stuff like that, international. Chapter 11 is usually a corporation, and there's two kinds. Well, there's several kinds of Chapter 11, but like in the regular Chapter 11 for a corporation, it's usually a restructuring of debt. There is a Chapter 11 liquidation, but most companies don't do that. You restructure your debt to try to, just maybe cancel some contracts or readjust and come out of bankruptcy. An individual sometimes can do a Chapter 11. Sometimes they have to because there's debt limits. But otherwise, like I have today, I was in some meetings on an individual Chapter 11. Person's being sued for almost $1 million and personal thing, and it's over the debt limits. And plus, there's also other advantages in Chapter 11 than 13, depending on the situation. So a person sometimes can do it or sometimes has to do it. Otherwise, generally speaking, a person does a Chapter 7 or Chapter 13. A Chapter 13 is like a personal, the way a corporation does a restructuring, it's a personal restructuring of debt. Think of it more like a court-ordered bill consolidation, okay? You keep all your assets, but you have up to 60 months to do a court-ordered consolidation, okay? And sometimes you pay bills and some debts in full. Sometimes some are less than in full. Maybe even pennies on the dollar. Depends on something. Even if you could pay it faster, you don't have to, and you keep all your assets and stuff. Chapter 7 is like a straight bankruptcy and your liquidation, but you're allowed to keep some money in the bank, some equity in cars, some equity in the house. There's different exemptions. That's why you have a lawyer to make sure you don't lose anything or anything that you don't want to lose. And then you have secured debt or unsecured debt. So like secured debt, for example, like a mortgage, or a car, you have the option of keeping it and paying for it or giving it back and owing nothing. I mean, right before I got on this call, someone had called, they couldn't find their lawyer from 10 years ago. They're doing a closing. She reaffirmed, blah, 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 right? So I explained to her, like I explained to you, like when you go to a closing, you sign a promissory note. I'm borrowing $100,000. Then you give the mortgage interest, which is the security interest in the property. So if you file bankruptcy, your personal obligation on the note that's unsecured, that is discharged, mortgage or car note, okay? But the lien stays on the property. So if you want to keep the property, you still pay it. I still wouldn't reaffirm it. Why be personally liable for it? But you pay it and they don't take it. Or if you don't pay it, you don't owe the money, but they get the property. That's all they're entitled to. So if there's a deficiency, that's wiped out. So then you have unsecured debt, which is generally the credit cards, stuff like that, loans are discharged. Student loans are not, but you got to list them anyway. Sometimes taxes could be discharged, sometimes they're not. So, debts incurred by fraud, child support, alimony, criminal stuff, that's not dischargeable. But you have to tell your lawyer, because we have to figure out what to do and how to list it and how to manage things. So then on the student loans, for example, that's very interesting because now that Trump came in office, previously the last couple of years, the Department of Education and the Department of Justice, because student loans aren't dischargeable, federal, right? Then the banking lobbied and bribed a bunch of congressmen and senators to change the law in 2005. So the private loans aren't dischargeable. But the private loans are a problem because there's no reason for them, okay? The federal student loans, there's all kinds of programs, even outside of bankruptcy, forgiveness, forbearance, income debt-based payments, all kinds of federal programs to help somebody. But the last couple of years, the Department of Justice was instructed not to actually fight on some of these discharging in bankruptcy. So that was happening. And then a couple of days ago, Trump just put a 60-day kibosh on that. Their Department of Justice is not now authorized to not object. And I don't know what's going to happen in the next 60 days because he's trying to get rid of the Department of Education. So I don't know what's happening with that. But you got to put down anyway, because whether it's dischargeable or not, like even taxes, maybe a portion of it's dischargeable. That's why you have a lawyer, I'm saying. So whatever is not, how do we deal with that outside? I do that as well. And then getting back to Chapter 11s, I told you, so there's the regular Chapter 11, but they have what's called a sub 5 category of Chapter 11, which is really more of a streamlined small business, different deadlines. They have a single asset real estate Chapter 11. There's a small business Chapter 11. And these are just, they're still reorganizations, or same thing, but like different deadlines on when you file a plan, or like in a sub 5 Chapter 11, there's a sub 5 trustee, where the rest of the Chapter 11s, you're debtor in possession. You are also in a sub 5, but the sub 5 trustee is supposed to try to help you get the confirmable plan by agreement. Sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't. So small business, you're debtor in possession, you're running your business, you're keeping your stuff. So there's no trustee. So those are all the kinds of different subs of the Chapter 11, but that's really what they really are.
We hear a lot of these companies that are going bankrupt, but it says they're going to restructure. What does that mean?
Yeah, that's a Chapter 11. You're restructuring your debt. So like you have, depending on the company, right? There could be certain contracts or vendors that maybe want to cancel, streamline, or do you want to spread your debt out, restructure them to make it affordable. In other words, you're in business like a person. Like a person has a job, they make money, but your payments are X. It's all relative, right? So you could be making them. I had one. They're doing, I don't know, several $1 million, a year, but they're spending, almost the same thing. So it's like you're still insolvent. So there's a business there, and the more business you're doing or numbers, just helping a small percentage here and there actually lead to a big help on cash flow, which helps save jobs and helps the company survive. People get paid. Now, sometimes some businesses are, got to cut the fat, like the national government, right? It's all in the news right now with the Department of Government Efficiency, whatever they're calling it. But there's a lot of junk. You know what I'm saying? So the same thing on a corporate restructuring. Maybe, you want to save the company and the jobs, but maybe the person who was doing it, maybe you got 10 people that on payroll, but it could be 3. You know what I'm saying? So it's just a waste. So just like the government just throwing money everywhere and no one's accountable for it. So people are like, oh, we got to raise taxes. Well, maybe just cut the expenses or stop giving the money away. And then we'll talk about raising, stuff like that. So that's how you're restructuring. You're restructuring your debt. Also, like on a corporation, suppose how much are the owners taking, right? Maybe they have to restructure too, keep their equity interest in line, because in a corporation, Chapter 11, or corporate or not, in Chapter 11, you file a plan, let's say, of reorganization, right? But you're trying to get votes from the creditors, and you list the creditors in various categories and whether they're being paid as agreed, or they call it impaired or not impaired, who's a voting class, who's not a voting class, and then you work with your creditors to negotiate and try to work out a plan for everybody that works. And there could be creditors committees or unsecured creditor committees formed depending on the complexity of the case or how big the corporation is. In a Chapter 13, on a personal restructuring, you're not asking for votes, you just do it. So let's say on a Chapter 13 restructuring, oftentimes it's used on stopping a foreclosure. I had someone just the other day, they're behind, say, you're behind $40,000, right? And your current mortgage payment is $2,000. The bank won't take it because you're in foreclosure, because it affects their foreclosure, and they want to take the property, and they don't tell you that could be worked out. So I could just file Chapter 13, stop the foreclosure immediately, and do what's called a cure and maintain plan, where I offer to pay back the current mortgage and the principal, interest, taxes, and insurance as agreed, starting the next month post petition, and pay back, let's say in my example, the $40,000 unsecured and no interest over 60 months. So you pay to a court trustee who pays it for you and tracks all the payments and payment transfers when they change servicers and lenders, and payment terms, if it's adjustable more, all that kind of stuff. We're tracking it for you. So you pay basically your current mortgage plus like 1/60th towards the, and they can't do anything about it as long as you pay the current proper amount and that your budget supports that you can actually do it. So it's not a crime. Like I have one I just did. The lady was so nervous, but we filed it, stopped the foreclosure sales a couple of weeks ago. But she didn't give me the doc. We have 14 days to file the plan. She kept saying her mortgage payment was $1,200 and $18,000 arrears. Well, I know it's not exactly $1,200 or $18,000. And I kept, she finally gave me the stuff, and I just told her, well, it's $34,506. Exact, and she was close on the 1,200. It was 1,221 and some change, because the creditor can't object if you're not paying the exact amount. But that's a minor objection. Then you just pay the right amount, and it's withdrawn or overruled. So in her case, her plan payment just went up. She owed more, 18,000 to 34,000, went up like $300. She could afford it, and everything's happy. But that's all you do. So the banks, even if you're in foreclosure, when you file the Chapter 13, they may hire a different law firm, which is more of the creditor law firms, and they're fine. They know us. They know how the game is played, how it works. They want the money. They just want to get paid. In foreclosure, they don't tell you because they're trying to take the house and get their money like tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? So you can keep your properties. This is an example of the Chapter 13 and how it's worked for. But there's no voting on it. If you could afford it and it's feasible, whether you're on disability or Social Security or income or rental income or someone's helping you out, family-wise, doesn't matter. And the court, there's no people like, well, what do I say? You don't say anything. You were behind, and now you're not. You want to catch up. You have that right. Chapter 13 is encouraged by the government. You're paying people back. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So as long as you're in good faith, which you are, most people are, they're behind you. It's not like people have this feeling like they're not going to let me do it. Well, now that's why you have us, because if you can't do it, I can tell you there's a problem, and how to fix it. You know what I'm saying? But otherwise, that's what it's for. It's a program to keep your property and assets, and people live there 5, 10, 20 years. Some of these properties, they got money invested in it, their family memories. Something happened, you fell behind, and the bank says, okay, great, you can make the mortgage payment now, but you owe me $40,000 on top of it. Give me the mortgage payment plus the 40. Who's got that? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, right. We're getting a lot of questions from listeners. 1, 2, 3 of them are basically the same.
Okay.
What kind of success rate have you had with people who haven't filed in years?
Haven't filed what? Taxes, or haven't filed
taxes?
Success rate in bankruptcy or tax resolution? What's
They just said in taxes, if you haven't filed, I guess they heard we're going to be doing a tax relief show in the second.
So, the reason we do both kind of is because the work in doing a 13 or a 7, qualifying for it, like the other person was talking about qualifications. There's a Chapter 7, there's an income test and a means test. So if you're over on a certain household, depending on your county, you're allowed X dollars. If you're over, there's ways to get you under. That's why you have a lawyer for your deductions, right? And then Chapter 7, you can't only file it every 8 years. So, that's how you qualify, okay? 13, there's just debt limits and restructuring. Otherwise, it's Chapter 11. There's no debt limits in Chapter 11, and so on, okay? So now, also, like the income test, there's based upon IRS numbers and IRS standards. We're doing tax resolution. You're really negotiating based upon what they call the reasonable collection potential. The IRS will settle your tax debt for the reasonable collection potential number. What's that number?
How do they figure that out?
Well, that's what you have a lawyer for, right? So, so they figure it out in a number that's not in your favor, because it's the same thing as bankruptcy. It's IRS standards. Not the same exact standards for housing and this, but that's how it works. So, so let's say, and then there's also what's your assets and the liquidity, what kind of credit do you get? So how do you value things? So I may say, here's the number. They say, no, this is a different number, and now we're negotiating because they say, well, Kevin, you're saying, the value of this is, how'd you get that? No, and I'm saying this is too high, but we can figure it out. And there's the internal IRS manual to figure it out also, but also there's other ways to do things. And then there's also what's really collectible and what's not, what's really liquidable and what's not. You have a car payment. Okay. You can take it. The IRS may say, well, the car payment's over in 5 months. So you don't, okay, but now we're getting a new one. So you're just arguing the numbers, I'm saying. So it's not like they try to make it look like on these radio, TV, or mostly radio commercials. Hey, we settle for pennies on the dollar. It's not how it works. You settle for the reasonable collection potential. So I've had clients call on taxes and like, hey, I have $3 million. I can't pay that. What do I do? Well, you're not going to pay it. You're going to show me. We're going to pay, what they're entitled to, and that number is, 100 grand, that may be over time too, but then I got to show that to have them take it. But like if you owe $1 million and you settle for 100,000, that's 10 cents on the dollar. If you settle for $10,000, that's 1 cent on the dollar. So, hey, I settle for a penny on the dollar. Well, you settle for 10 grand. You owe $1 million, so it's a penny on a dollar. If it was 100 grand, it's 10 cents on the dollar. If it was 20 grand, you settle for 50 on the dollar. You know what I'm saying? So what's the number? You know what I'm saying? So the more you owe, it looks better on the radio, but it's really how it works. So now tax returns, to get more to the question. So in bankruptcy, you have to be compliant. They don't care if you owe the IRS money or not, okay? They just want you to, if it's a federal program, so it's a federal law, so they want you to file your federal returns. If you owe money, that's fine, just disclose it. And it could be paid in the 13 or paid later on the 7. That's all stuff, right? They don't care about your state taxes, but you got to pay it. And you got to have filed within 45 days. Otherwise, they kick you out, because if you're not filing returns, they kick you out. So there's no success thing on that. I don't know. But now for the IRS, if you want to do a resolution, offering compromise, installment agreement, currently non-collectible, even a hardship, effective tax administration, right? And there's different programs for installment agreement and different types of offering compromises and different levels. Is a revenue officer involved, or an agent, or is it a streamlined program where you're simply in the what they call ACS, the automatic collections? So all kind. That's why you have the lawyer, right? So, but they're not going to settle with you or make any deal if you're not compliant. Okay, so the success rate of someone not compliant is zero, but you comply. Right. So it doesn't matter to this person who asked the question. You haven't filed in 5 years. That's fine. I can still represent that person to the IRS, and I'll say, well, we're getting the tax returns done. Okay. Otherwise, the IRS may have filed for you SFR, substitute for return. And trust me, those numbers aren't going to be good. Okay. But then if you file, those get taken back. So it doesn't matter if you have filed, hasn't filed, but you got to become compliant, right? So then if you do have a deal, as part of the deal, let's say you're doing payments, right? An installment agreement. If you then become not compliant, let's say someone had a deal in 2020 in December, well, now come April 15, they owe money and they don't file, they're not compliant anymore. They cancel the deal. So you got to stay compliant. So the success rate is actually 100% because you just filed the returns. And quite frankly, like in my example here, when I have someone coming in and the next tax year is done, I said, well, that's good news. File your, like right now, 2024 is not due to April 15. But if you're going to owe money, file it now, because when we do the resolution, we're going to include the 2024. You know what I'm saying? Take care of everything.
Yes.
Because the IRS is just like the government in a 13. Just want the money, And they don't know you owe $3 million, you can only afford. How do they know, right? So they just come after you because people don't open the mail because they, I get it, they don't, and they got a lot of collection tools. You know what I'm saying? And if they need more collection tools, they go to Congress and they create something else. So they're a very powerful agency, obviously. But there's also appeals and U.S. Tax Court. I'm a member of the U.S. Tax Court. There's, audits, there's all kinds of things you could do. And even if you're negotiating with the IRS, it's like maybe I'm talking to a revenue officer, but there's a manager involved and there's a regional person that you could sometimes go over their head a little bit and talk to, get more people involved. Otherwise, there's an appeals process. Just like court, that's why lawyers, it's a natural progression to do both. Because in bankruptcy, sometimes taxes can be dischargeable. Someone call, maybe I could just discharge it for you. Oh, great. Or you could pay it in 13 or 11, depending on the amount, just pay it over that. Otherwise, you could avoid that and just do a tax resolution whether it's an offer in compromise or an installment agreement, they will back off. And even if you do a Chapter 7 and you owe, let's say, $40,000, right? And it's not dischargeable, but you're filing for a different reason. The IRS simply sends a letter. Hey, when Chapter 7, the automatic stays in place. They're not going to do any collection procedure. When the case is over, the money's going to be owed, and we could submit a resolution, whatever. So we start timing things. You know what I'm saying? So that's why you have someone like myself. It's like, what's the plan? But what's plan A, plan B, sub 1, sub 2? What if this happens? What if that happens? How do we combine things? Do we file the BK first or go for a resolution first, or are you being sued, foreclosure? And I have to analyze your taxes because, generally speaking, they're not dischargeable unless they are. So there's always exceptions to it. But that's like someone says they owe $150,000. Okay, they probably do. But how is that calculated? Is that 1 year or over 5 years, 7 years? So each year that adds up, I have to determine, is that amount dischargeable or not? So maybe the whole thing is not. Some of it is, some of it's not. And then each tax year, I'll say, okay, the ones that aren't dischargeable, it's dischargeable on this day, right? So now, let's say you owe 150, I can get rid of 100, but guess what? If I file the case in 2 months, I get rid of 20. Oh, let's wait 2 months. Oh, but wait, your house is being sold. Maybe we can't wait. You know what I'm saying? So we got to figure out, that's why you have me. What's the plan?
Seems like, Kevin, a lot of people want to know if they retain you as their lawyer, do you start talking to all the creditors? Do they no longer have to speak to a creditor once they've signed with you?
I don't want to talk to the creditors. So what happens is, if you sign with me, right? Yeah, I give you a number. I have a direct line I give clients. Don't give that to your credit. Give them the main number. And then it's really called to verify, basically. Do you really represent this person? Because everyone says they're filing. You know what I'm saying? Also, are you really a bankruptcy lawyer? They see on the webpage I am. And then, okay, Kevin, when do you think you're going to file? Because in reality, the collectors, they're probably getting commission. So they're going to track it. Don't think, let's say sometimes people hire me and they're like, oh, they don't pay and it doesn't get filed. Well, everybody went away. Nobody went away. I'm dealing with them. And as soon as I say, like someone called yesterday on a case, my assistant's like, they want to know if you still represent so-and-so, to tell them no. I don't. So I'll probably get a phone call on that client in a couple of days. Maybe they want to hire me again, but it doesn't go away. It goes away only if I, because of us. So you basically say, call my lawyer. What are you doing? Call my lawyer. He's taking care of it, and I take care of it. Now, in reality, we want to file the case right away.
Question here, Kevin, and I kind of know the answer to it because every case is different, but they wanted to know what the average cost is to file for bankruptcy.
Every case is different. There is no average cost. And if someone calls me up and says, hey, how much did you charge? Keep calling somebody up. It's anybody who's quoting you on the phone in 5 seconds doesn't know anything, right? Because everyone's, my case is really easy. Oh, yeah, sure it is. I'm saying, but the consultation is free. You know what I'm saying? So I could do a phone, I could do in person, I could do phone or do a Zoom. It's free. It doesn't take that long for me to figure out, what's going on with you to qualify.
Right.
What case are we doing? You know what I'm saying? Do you qualify for that? Are there any issues? And, then I could work out a fee and payments. So it's fine. But there's no like base fee, like where someone just calls, well, here's the fee. Okay. And if they're looking for the cheapest fee, call somebody else. It's not going to be me. I'm not going to be the most expensive either, but I mean, I know what my time is worth, what the case is worth. And if there's guys on TV, hey, just, call me. They're just trying to get your credit card, start getting you on payments. Or there's other people, I have someone call me. I gave him a consultation. I quoted him a fee. Oh, well, so-and-so was less. Then why are you calling me? Why didn't you hire that person? You know what I'm saying? And they asked, well, why that person quoted me this? How do I know? That person knows his value, and he quoted you a fee based upon what you told him. For example, I had a phone call a couple of weeks ago. Free consultation. Guy had a business going down, lives now, out of business, living with family, got no money. Simple case. Well, it's not a simple case. I'm asking him because there was a couple $100,000 on a divorce thing a couple of months ago that just vanished. Well, I don't have it anymore. Yeah, I know. It's a problem. You file bankruptcy, it's going to come back. You gave it to your mom or sister or somebody, you know, it's called a fraudulent transfer. And the trustee's coming after them and taking it, you know. Because when I first asked the guy questions, he's like, yeah, I don't like your attitude. My attitude. I'm just asking you questions. He's rambling on. He says there's like 40 business lawyers on Google, but then go call them. And actually, there's probably 4,000. Okay. So, I mean, you're calling me. Okay. So I'm giving you my expert 35 plus years of experience asking questions, trying to help you. And I'm trying to streamline the stuff, right? So he hasn't hired me, but what's going to happen? He may call the next lawyer, and he can mention that couple $100,000 thing, you know what I'm saying? So that's why, like, you know, why does someone quote one? It's based on information that you give them. Or, you know, I may quote somebody a fee, but when I'm getting documents and stuff, I'm like, excuse me, you know, you actually own this property. Oh, do I? Yeah, you do. And it's a problem. I can fix it, but it's a more complicated case. So anyway, and then sometimes it's innocent. People don't even know. I'm saying, I had someone just last week, you know, he's like, no, my wife had it. Like, well, okay, I checked. You actually been on the title for 5 years. She gave you a quick claim. Oh, did she? Oh, it's 5 years ago. Probably didn't even know what I'm saying. They got married and put them on. So it wasn't a problem because I got to see how the deed is held and what exemptions I have, but it's just information that I need to do. So, and sometimes people are hiding something, but, you know, usually they're not because I'll catch it. And that's my job. Because my job isn't to help you hide things. It's to get you out of debt. You know, I got one right now. This guy owes a lot of money. He's calling me up. Well, what about this couple of pieces of crap? You know, I'm like, so the question is, do you have furniture? Yes. Do you have some jewelry? Put it down. I'll tell you if it's a bomb or not. You know what I'm saying? It's just a disclosure. You're allowed to have things. It's not like in the movies, you know, you're bankrupt, you're punished, and you're going to be like dead or prison. And, you know, it's just a question. And the questionnaire I give someone and the petitions and schedules and financial affairs documents you file in a bankruptcy, it's the government questions. Okay. So they're just questions, right? Now, whether it's a problem or not, that's why you have a lawyer. You don't just answer the question. Before we file it, you know, we know, because sometimes when someone thinks they have a problem, they don't, or if they do, it's not really a big problem like they think. I know how to handle. Oh, I'll just do this and we'll file the case in you're qualified in 2 months, or whatever. So oftentimes it's not a problem. But like when you say you don't have a house, oh, because the bank owns it. No, you own it. The bank has the mortgage. Okay. Oh no, I don't have a house, but I gave it to my son yesterday. You know, someone told me I don't have a house anymore. You're right, you don't. You file the case. The trustee's going to have the house and they're going to sell it.
Kevin, this is going to shock you. I've actually been waiting for the right time to do this. And I've said today I'm going to do this. I used to do about 20 years ago. Ask the experts. I've been doing this for 25 years. And I used to do this with the Chicago Tribune. Until people stop reading the newspaper. And I don't think you remember this, but I met you about 20 years ago at a doctor's office. I even remember the doctor's name. And you and I spoke for about an hour.
Really?
And I was so impressed with Kevin that I always kept his card. So when we decided to open up a bankruptcy show for Illinois, I said, I got to call Kevin. I was so impressed with your knowledge. I don't know if you remember it. It was a long time ago, but I even remember the doctor's name because he was from India, but long time ago. And I was so impressed with you. And I see the amount of people who are calling in with or texting in questions. I love the fact that all you do, and I'll explain, all you do is bankruptcy, debt management, tax relief. because there's a lot of attorneys out there you look at, they say, hey, I specialize in criminal law, estate planning, personal injury. They got a whole gamut. You concentrate in one area, and I think that's one of the reasons why you're so good at what you do.
Yeah. So to clarify, the area though is not. It's like some lawyers only do Chapter 7. Some only do 13. A lot of lawyers don't do Chapter 11 because it's a lot more labor intensive and complicated and don't know how to do it. Plus, to be your lawyer for Chapter 11, you have to be approved by the court. Now, a lot of guys can't get approved because they check you out to make sure you know what you're doing because chapter is complex and they don't want people screwing up these cases, right? I get approved, but other guys do, but not most people don't. And other lawyers don't know how to do it. They're scared, and they should be because you don't want to screw something up, right? So Chapter 7 or 13, you file the case, you're the attorney. But some only do 7s. They just want to do simple cases, whatever. But we do 7s, 13s, 11s. I do corporate 11s, individual, sub 5, small business, single asset. Whatever you need. So it's one area, but it's more than one area. And then we do foreclosure solutions, the foreclosure stuff, which could be in state court, but could be put in Chapter 13 or 11 and restructure it. So it's a foreclosure issue, but it's, it's still one area, but it's not. So taxes, could be Chapter 11, it could be Chapter 7, it could be 13, or it could be IRS suffering compromise, or partial pay installment, full pay installment. So the point is it's several areas. It's one, but there's a lot of prongs to it. And that's why you have me, because I know what are your option or options, the pros and cons of each. What's the game plan, right? And what's the backup plan? And what if this happens? And how do we go? And we have a whole structure. I'm an attorney. I deal with facts and stuff. And I know how to do all the areas where other lawyers don't do tax, don't do Chapter 11. Some don't even do Chapter 13. Some of the guys do foreclosure stuff, but only in state court. They don't know how to do it in federal. So, I have people call sometimes like, well, man, it's different lawyers say different things. Well, if you're calling a state lawyer about filing bank, and they don't know, I'm saying, or you're calling a foreclosure lawyer who doesn't do bankruptcy, they may say, well, you got to do this and that, but maybe they don't. Because I get phone calls like, oh, I'm in foreclosure, I got to defend it. Okay, well, I could do that if you have a defense. But what's the problem? Well, I fell behind on my mortgage and I can't pay, but now I can. Okay, you have no defense, but here's the good news. I can just restructure and stop the foreclosure like that, and it's done, and it's cheaper, more affordable, and it's done. You know what I'm saying? Otherwise, you're just paying some lawyer to try to find a defense. Now the mortgage is getting farther and farther behind. The money you're paying is just going to attorney fees. You know what I'm saying? And it's just a nightmare. But some lawyers, they just do that, because they don't know how to do it that way. And then if there's no defense and they're not really creating one, they're not really doing anything. Because at least in Illinois, foreclosure is a court matter. It's litigation, right? Discovery, documents. if you really have a defense, you know what I'm saying? But it's just a money thing. Chapter 13 is regulated by the court. Like somebody's asking about attorney fee. Well, Chapter 13, it's they charge $313 for a court filing fee. Chapter 7, they charge $338. Chapter 11, $1,738, $1,738. Those are the filing fees, right? Chapter 13, though, it's regulated by the court. So you don't have to always use the court contract, but for most people do one because then these are base cases. It's the court-approved retention agreement and certain disclosures. So if someone calls me, I tell them, I'll send you a retention agreement. It's not mine. It's written by the court. Same contract whether you hire me or someone down the street, right? The attorney fee is the same. It's regulated by the court. It's $4,500 as of now, right? No matter whether you hire me or somebody else. The difference is, how do you pay the $4,500? So whether that's payments or in the plan or, that's something I work out with somebody based upon their situation. You know what I'm saying? So, but I have to submit documents to the court, whether the 7, 13, or 11. I have to file a disclosure of compensation under penalty of perjury of what I'm charging, what was paid, who paid it, from where, right? And I have to attach the agreement, whether it's a court-approved agreement or it's a 7 or 11, it's my contract. So the court sees what I'm doing, right? So the court's kind of checking you out for that. So 13 is kind of, and then, 13, that includes it for a 5-year plan. You know what I'm saying? So you're the lawyer for 5 years and you take care of stuff. And so it's a good deal. Chapter 7s go about 4 to 5 months. So, and most lawyers won't do payments on a 13 because in 2005, the banking lobby bribed Congress to reform the laws. And they decided to say that, hey, if you file Chapter 7 on your bankruptcy attorney, you're not paid.
Oh, that's right.
How dumb is that?
Yeah, that's right.
I'm saying, because it used to be no money down, just make payments, right? And now people can't do that. There are a couple guys that do it, and I'm one of them, right? Because there's a way to do it legally and disclosure. But also, sometimes people think they don't get paid, most lawyers. I find that if someone really needs payments, and by the way, I'm going to have your budget. So, it's not like everyone, if you pay me, But
right.
If you need help, I can work with you. Not a problem. But what I do is, first of all, if I file your case and you're eliminating all these credit card payments you're paying, blah, 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 you actually have payments you can make, you know what I'm saying, which is fine, you know what I'm saying? And what I do is I make the payments, affordable. Because I can say, give me $1,000 a month. And some guys actually, maybe they want to do that, saying, but some guys can't. You know what I'm saying? Well, if I say I have to have that, you'll say fine, but you really can't pay it. Now, what good is that? You know what I'm saying? So I just make it, based on the budget. If it's 3 months, 6 months, whatever it is, I'll make it affordable because I find when I do that, they actually pay. People are happy to do it. You spread it. There's no interest on it. But if you have the money, pay me or pay me part, whatever. I'll work it out with you. But that's why if someone calls, what's your fee? I don't know. I don't know what kind of case you're doing, what your assets are, what you transfer, what you didn't transfer, what you forgot about, what you didn't know about. I do asset and lien search for free for people. Not to see you're lying, but I may find, hey, you didn't know this guy's suing you. Oh, I didn't know. Well, yeah, I know because you weren't served yet. I can see. But I found it for you. Put it on the case, and but I also get like information like there's pendants. I get a lot of information I could use on the schedules, the VIN numbers of the cars, property numbers to make a more tight disclosure on the case, and also figure out valuations so I could figure out exemptions for people and figure out if there's equity or not, and how much you got to pay back or not, and what kind of case you're doing. So that's how that all works.
Kevin, you also help assist people when they have back taxes, haven't filed with the IRS, having IRS problems. And from some of the letters that we get, a lot of people are very embarrassed when they shouldn't be, because this is what you do for a living.
Right.
But they're very embarrassed. Do you find that people are pretty much honest with you?
Pretty much. Not everybody. Okay.
Because if they're not, you can't help them, can you?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm not stupid. Okay. And I don't know why you want to hire a stupid lawyer. But
Yeah.
I'm not stupid. Neither is the U.S. trustee. Neither are the bankruptcy judges or even the creditor attorneys who do this stuff. It's not like, oh, the dog ate my homework. Well, I didn't know that. Come on, right? They've heard every story. Okay.
Yes.
And it's law. It's like sometimes people ask a question, it's yes or no, and they tell me their life story. And I'm like, I get it, you're nervous, but it's not a problem. You know what I'm saying? You're allowed to have something. I got it exempt for you. I guess you don't have to explain. Because if I'm filing a 13 and stuff in foreclosure, we know what happened. You didn't pay the mortgage, but now you are. You know what I'm saying? Or you had a business judgment. So you had to file Chapter 7. It's right there. You don't need a reason. You just got to know, do you qualify or not? And I sign the document saying you qualify. Someone could try to challenge that, but that's why I do I dot my I's, cross my T's to make sure that I know what we're doing. And sometimes a client has a choice, and I say, "What do you want to do? This and that, or this exemption I could do, but the timing of it, maybe there's some, what are the risks? What do you want to do?" Sometimes I do a Chapter 7. There's maybe a little bit of too much equity in a car. Okay, so maybe the 7 trustee may try to shake it down for 5 or 6. I give them an estimate. I'm saying, but if you're discharging 100,000 plus in debt, you may say, I'll take that risk because I could just settle that if I have to. You know what I'm saying? So But I give someone the choice, or you could do a 13, this small payment and not worry about it. But my job is to give the advice and the options, pros and cons, and help a client make an informed decision. Because under the Illinois Code of Responsibility, lawyers do the lawyering, so to speak, and clients do the clienting. What does that mean? On matters of legal strategy and stuff like that, that's my job. Okay, settlements and decisions is the client's job, right? That's how that works. I don't work with your boyfriend's or husband's brother or wife who's a lawyer, and someone called me one day. Well, hey, you told me all this stuff was good, but then I talked to someone else, and but they're not even a lawyer. Oh, but they filed a case for themselves for years ago. Oh, wow, they must know how to do it. Wow, why are you calling me? What do you need me for? So it's a joke, because everyone's like, I hear people like, well, my sister did a 12 years ago, and she was paying $500 a month. What does that have to do with your case? What I'm saying? So those kind of people I try to, say, call somebody else or not, but otherwise they come around. But, when you're calling me, you're calling, the consultation may be free, but that doesn't mean my time is not valuable. Right. So I'm not going to let someone talk to me in a certain way or have an attitude like I'm the bad guy. You're calling me. I'm talking to you. I'm trying to help. Oftentimes someone called before this call, they couldn't find their other lawyer, right? From 10 years ago. I know I could find them in a minute, but I what's the issue? I helped her out. I mean, she's not going to be a client, but hey, here's what I think. It's not a problem. You need more help, call me, but, happy to help. Quick, 10-minute call.
Here's a great text that we just got. It's from St. Louis. I was actually born in St. Louis. I'm really enjoying your show. I like what you're saying. You seem like you really know about tax relief, which you definitely do. Are you allowed to represent somebody in another state?
For taxes? Well, yes. Well,
Yes.
First of all, I'm licensed. Well, for taxes, it's IRS. It's federal, right?
Federal, right?
Right. State taxes, maybe not, but federal is really what most people have, right? So yes, I am. Okay, that's not a problem. To represent somebody before the IRS, you have to be a CPA, what they call it, an enrolled agent, or an attorney. Okay. But just being an attorney, you got to be licensed, your CAF number. I am. I'm saying. That's federal. In bankruptcy, I'm actually licensed in 2 state courts, Illinois and Florida, but I'm licensed in many federal jurisdictions. I've done cases in Colorado, Florida, Illinois, Michigan, Indiana, Wisconsin, all over the place. Okay. That's federal, right? So sometimes the only thing, like in Wisconsin, there's 2 federal districts, eastern and western of Wisconsin. I'm licensed in both federal districts, but not state of Wisconsin. State of Wisconsin actually has reciprocity with Illinois. I could get licensed. I've thought about it because I may do more stuff in Milwaukee, but I don't need it for the bankruptcies. And so I don't want to be paying the extra attorney fee license every year. And
yeah, but for federal tax, you can handle someone in Missouri, right?
Huh? Yeah, I mean, federal tax, I do Missouri, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well, and I just wrote a backup. And if you've signed with an attorney and you want to leave that attorney, are you have any obligations to them to go with someone else?
Okay, so you sign what? I mean, what, for tax or for bankruptcy or for, you can always
leave talking tax.
Tax? Oh yeah, you could, of course. You're in charge. So even me. I mean, if someone doesn't like the way I'm doing something, or doesn't like the way I'm telling them how to do it, I tell them, the client, you're free to get somebody else. I don't need to even tell you that. You could just fire me. So are you obligated on the contract? I'm not sure what kind of contract you have or what kind of area of law you're talking about. Like, for example, if you're doing a contingency thing and you fired your lawyer on an injury case, they still get like quantum merit, so to speak. They're going to get something, I'm saying, because they have a lien on the file. If you're doing like for bankruptcy, well, someone wants to fire their BKLA before they even filed. Well, first of all, you're discharge it anyway. So, so that's not an issue. On a tax thing, no, if you're making payments, just stop. What are they going to do? You don't have an obligation if you're not happy with someone. Like in my retainer agreements, they even tell you, you can do this. I'm saying, because it's just a matter of it's got to work for everybody. But sometimes people put things in the contracts like this question aside. People give loans, whatever. It says right there, you can't file bankruptcy, big block. Well, of course you can. That clause is no good. So,
right.
So why they put it in there? Because some people say, well, I can't do it. It says that, so they don't call anybody. That's all they do. They know the
Kevin, I got to tell you, 50 minutes show just goes by so fast. We could have kept going on and on. Tell people how they can reach you, especially the ones who are listening on iHeart right now.
Well, the web page is benjaminlaw.com. The office number is 312-853-3100. I also have Noble Tax Relief at nobletaxrelief.com. But they're both me. BenjaminLaw.com, 312-853-3100. Call me or go on my website. Even the website has a contact form. You just put your name in, call you. I have a Calendly link I could send you. You could make your own appointment. All kinds of ways. Easy to, I'll do it night before you, do it at lunchtime for you, whatever you need. We could schedule the calls or Zoom, or if it's going to be in person, sometimes I have someone come in, I make them because it's more complicated, or if they're current clients, easier. Otherwise, I don't really need to see it. We do it by Zoom, because my experience is most people, well, I'm old school, I want to come in, they don't show up. And that'll just piss me off.
Really.
So show
we're gonna be replaying the show next week at the same time, and Kevin's with us every month. Kevin, thank you so much. You just bring so much knowledge to the show. Kevin Benjamin, Noble Tax Relief. We'll see you again next month, Kevin.
Legal Services also, BenjaminLaw.com, Benjamin Legal Services. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. That's attorney Kevin Benjamin. Incredible attorney out of Illinois, out of Chicago. That's it for us today. We'll be back again with you next week with more Ask the Experts.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.